Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Happening in Brazil. We will kick things off with the week's latest news.
Last Wednesday, app delivery workers from all over the country mobilized seeking better working conditions. In São Paulo, they blocked off one of the city's main bridges and also rode their motorcycles collectively through main streets. Organizers say that 5,000 people took part in the protests. Among their demands are an increase in the minimum fare, an end to unjust account suspensions, and help from the apps for workers who contract the coronavirus or have accidents. There were also protests in the city of Rio de Janeiro demanding improvements. In Brasília, the country's capital, the delivery workers gathered in front of the National Congress. They pressured lawmakers to create a congressional committee to oversee matters relating to the segment. The walkout also had the public support, who mobilized to not make any delivery requests on these platforms on that day. The Brazilian government decided to extend the emergency assistance package given to the population with another 2 installments of 600 reais, around $120. The announcement, which came this week, contradicts President Jair Bolsonaro. On several occasions, he positioned himself as contrary to the continuity of the program. However, in order to avoid political conflicts, he backtracked, facing pressure from Congress. All the while, the Brazilian population is suffering from a surge in COVID-19 cases, which have not seen a decline in their curve. The country has already surpassed the 1.5 million infections mark, and more than 60,000 people have died since the first patient was identified in late February, and Brazil is already the world leader in new infections for the disease. Different than other nations who were able to contain contagion due to strict isolation measures, Brazil has never had a national social distancing plan.
While large-scale agriculture is imposing itself as the main business model for rural agriculture in Brazil, it's the agroecology production being harvested in the camps and settlements of the Landless Workers Movement, the MST, that is feeding the most vulnerable in the population. Brasil de fato went to see one of these camps in the state of Paraná, one of the places with the most expressive initiatives during the coronavirus pandemic.
Solidarity has always been one of the guiding principles of the Landless Workers Movement, MST, but during the pandemic, it becomes even more prominent in farming communities. In the state of Paraná, landless families totaled 237 tons of donated food as of last Saturday. The cultivation of this produce was done in encampments and in 369 settlements of the popular land reform.
Com satisfação, né?
It's with satisfaction that we are helping the townspeople feed themselves. It's healthy food with no poison, nothing.
Sustento nosso daqui é...
Local sustenance is made right here. Our survival is guaranteed from within. We grow our plants and sell them to markets, schools, projects, and survive from this.
In this encampment, the families created a cooperative geared towards agroecological production.
Here we have always raised the banner of agroecology because we have always defended healthy eating. It's one of our basic principles. Another thing to remember is that with the conventional brands comes the destruction of the planet, which gets worse every day, out of balance, out of control, so much drought. Agroecology is a way to stand up to this model.
At another camp, 150 families are transforming public land being used illegally to test fertilizers and other agricultural products. Instead of that, they're building homes for people and harvesting goods with no poison.
Our fertilizer is this right here. This is natural, compost. And that's it. The plantation is here, totally organic, 100% organic.
Aqui é rodeado de fazenda.
The donations began in these camps. We are surrounded by large-scale agricultural properties, yet we are producing right among them, in partnership with the environment.
Estamos aí, né? Sem agredir o meio ambiente.
Still in isolation at the end of June, many Brazilians lamented not being able to take part in one of the country's most traditional celebrations. They are the Festas Juninas, or June parties, that pay homage to three saints during the month: St. Anthony, St. John and St. Peter. Besides the bonfires and the flags and the traditional foods, in the northeast of the country, these parties come to life with the quadrilhas, or professional dance troupes. They are the ones who suffered most from the absence of these parties due to social isolation.
Alongside the celebrations themselves, the quadrilhas are the biggest symbol of the June parties and represent all the joy of forró, traditional music from the Northeast, and St. John. However, in 2020, the parties are different. Due to social isolation because of the coronavirus, there is no way to gather large crowds for a celebration.
There was a gigantic impact on our segment. We have stopped rehearsals. The dance troupe itself is inactive. The whole project is stalled. It's a project that we have invested a lot in. There is no explaining the feeling you get when you go on stage, when you put on your costume. Our accomplishments, we work for that.
The quadrilhas are the life force of the June parties, and they depend directly on grants by authorities, through the prices and festivals municipalities put forth. At this point in time, the future is uncertain.
Faced with this scenario, the first things to suffer cuts are cultural undertakings. This worries me a lot. As the leader of a quadrilha, this is the reality we face in 2021. We are looking at ways of ensuring that this will not be the end of us. We are also aware that the festivals also depend on these budgets. It's not a concern just for the quadrilhas, but the Festas Juninas as a whole.
This year, the celebrations are underway with virtual performances. Despite the desire to go back on stage, even the leaders of the quadrilhas defend that the health of the population comes first.
No ano passado e nos outros anos nós estávamos a todo vapor.
We are considering postponing the St. John celebrations to October. I personally don't see this happening. I don't think we'll be in the mood. If we find a cure or a vaccine, maybe we have some parties, which will also have a feeling of celebration and respect after a tragedy such as this.
In today's Brazilianism, you will learn a traditional recipe of the June festivities, corn cake.
In order to make corn cake, the ingredients are 2 cups of corn flour, 1 cup of sugar, 3 eggs, 2 soup spoons of butter, 150 milliliters of soy oil, half a cup of cheese, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 50 grams of shredded coconut. Mix all the ingredients in a blender. Add some salt to your liking. Blend it till there is an evened out dough. Place it in a buttered pan and put it in the oven preheated to 180 degrees. Let it bake for 35 minutes. There you go, it's ready.
And that's all for today. We'll see you next week. Until then, bye bye.